Well, hello, everybody. My name is John Kane, and I want to thank you all for joining us today for today's webinar, Building the Case for Generally Accepted Fleet Maintenance Management Principles. A couple of things I want to go over before we do really dive in. If you do have any questions, please feel free to enter them into the question panel, and we will either address it during the webinar or we will follow up with you after. So again, welcome and thank you for joining us today. So let's get started. I'd like to introduce our presenters today. Again, my name is John Kane, and I am the product manager for B2W Software's equipment maintenance module, Maintain. We also have with us Mike Vorster, who is the owner of CEMP Central and author of Construction Equipment Economics, How to Improve Fleet Management and Get the Most from Your Investment. And with that, I would like to turn it right over to Mike.
John, greetings. Good afternoon to you and good afternoon to everybody out there. Thank you, John, very much. As John says, I run CEMP Central and do a lot of consulting to companies and individuals in the fleet management area. Thank you for including me in the webinar this afternoon and for making one of my passions the subject of the webinar. I'm delighted to work with B2W on many things that we do. We share a lot of interest, and it's always a pleasure to be with you, John, and with the folk at B2W. There's no doubt that there's a lot of support for the development of a set of generally accepted fleet management principles. Everybody I speak to on the subject and all the folk on my training courses agree that we absolutely need to bring some order and, if you wish, some standardization to the various processes that we use. Because it really is a wild west out there when it comes to how we do the things we do and how we use the systems that we use. And presentation this afternoon is going to be under three separate headings. The first heading is the need. The second heading is the vision. Third heading is going to be the CEMP way, where I'll give a brief overview of my thinking at this time with some details. So onto the slide on the need. This slide tells you a lot and really tells you why B2W is front and center in sharing this vision with me. We need software and competent software tools to manage our fleets. We deploy all our business systems through software. Pencil and paper, dueling spreadsheets, and data wars simply get you nowhere. Yes, in order to survive in today's world, our systems must be much more formal and much more structured than they ever have been in the past. And yes, competent software lies at the heart of most business systems. Both software users and software developers must know and understand what's needed from the system. And in terms of knowing what their customers are needed, B2W does this remarkably well. The little angry man picture on this slide really says it all. We talk across each other because no one knows exactly what they want or exactly what they should or should not deliver to each other. There is no meeting of the minds, or very seldom a meeting of the minds, on what the system will look like or what it will do, because there's no meeting of the minds on what our needs are. So, what is the vision? The accounting profession has some generally accepted principles. They know what they want or must have in their accounting system. They know what it looks like and they know how to get it. Well, us equipment types are exactly the opposite. We don't know what we want in the equipment system. Everybody has their own ideas, and we really struggle when it comes to defining our requirements. My vision is that some sort of blueprint or some specification that outlines our need would certainly help us get to the happy man picture in this slide. If we know what we need, we can work with the builders of great software to get the tools we need, and then go for it. So what is this vision? What does the CEMP way look like? Well, this is a great overview slide. There's no doubt that we need 4 tools in our toolbox. Top right-hand corner, we need something that helps us manage cost, because knowing our cost, our owning and our operating cost of our fleet is indeed the price of admission. Top left-hand corner, utilization. We need something that helps us measure and manage utilization. We need to know how hard the fleet is working. We need to know how good we are at recovering the fixed cost of ownership. And we need to know that we've got the equipment we need in our fleet, no more and no less. We need something that helps us with reliability. Bottom right-hand corner. Reliability and downtime tell us how good we are at repairing and maintaining our fleet. They tell us how well we are spending all that maintenance money. Yet, we seldom measure reliability and downtime, and therefore we are seldom in a position to measure the efficiency of our maintenance enterprise. We know it costs a bunch, but do we know what we get for it in terms of improved reliability and uptime? Bottom left-hand corner is the last tool in the toolbox. It helps us manage our fleet average age. We know that fleet age is important. We know we don't want a fleet that's too old because it breaks down too much and we can't get the work built. We spend too much on repair parts and labor. Conversely, we know we don't want a fleet that is too young. It ties up too much capital, makes it impossible to produce a return on investment, and our depreciation and finance charges are exorbitant. Yet, we seldom have formal tools that help us manage fleet average age. We sort of wing it, and we hope we get it right. We're now going to look at each of the 4 areas in turn, and we're going to do this by looking at 4 standard topics. We're going to look at the metrics that we use, at the capabilities that we need in order to make it all possible, at the baselines we need so that we can know what's good and what's bad, and we're going to look at the data that we need to record. Well, when it comes to cost, there are our key metrics: earned value budgets at a unit, class, category, and fleet level, split according to both the primary and the secondary cost types, and for defined periods, life to date, year to date, current month, and so on. Our capabilities are relatively straightforward. We need a structured and logically numbered fleet so we can group machines together and compare them with each other. We need a process for recording hours and weeks deployed. We need a process for recording and coding our actual costs. With regards to required baselines, we need our budget or our cost recovery rates split according to our cost types, and those enable us to create the budgets, which we then compare with our actual costs. Our recorded data are relatively simple. We need the actual weeks the machine is deployed, the actual hours, days, or weeks that it's worked, and we need its actual location. Let's now look at utilization under the same 4 topics. Our key metrics for utilization: deployment, availability, and utilization, defined as is shown in the top left box on the screen. What are our required capabilities? Again, a logically and structuredly numbered fleet and a process for recording hours worked or weeks deployed. What baselines do we need to measure and manage utilization? We need our operational calendar. We need to know how long we want to work and how many days or weeks in the month we want to work. We need target values for deployment, availability, and utilization so that, again, we can compare actuals with target. What data do we need to record? You're starting to see something very familiar here: our actual weeks deployed, the hours, days, or week that the machine has worked, and its actual location. We switch to reliability and look at that under the same 4 topics. We see our key metrics for reliability: the number of unplanned, on-shift down events, the number of planned repair before action failure or maintenance actions, and the number of on-shift hours the machine is down and unable to support production. Those are the key metrics for reliability. Capabilities, you see, very similar. Our fleet must be structured and logically numbered. We need a process for recording hours or weeks deployed and working, but we now need a system to code and monitor the status of our various work orders, which John will discuss later in the presentation. Baselines, we need our maintenance calendars. Now, in addition to our operational calendars, we need to know how long we want the machines to actually be up and running. What data do we record? Again, we see a lot of similarity, the actual hours, days or weeks worked, and we need, in this case now, the work order status and changes. We look at the fourth tool in our toolbox, and we look at age, same 4 topics. What are our key metrics? The current age relative to our age benchmarks, the burn rate, how fast are we using up our fleet in each category and class during a year, and the number of units we forecast that are due for replacement in the year or years ahead. Again, our capabilities, a well-numbered fleet, and a process for recording hours worked. We've seen those capabilities as requirements for our previous tools. For our baselines, we must know how long we want to keep the things so that we can again compare actual with baseline. Recorded data, we've seen the recorded data, and we know the data that we need in order to put this particular characteristic in place. The next slide is an important slide because it addresses 2 very, very important questions that make this whole thing possible. And that is, where does the data come from? And then the second one is, what makes B2W Maintain and the B2W1 platform a great place to develop the CEMP way? Well, as the slide shows, data comes from instrumentation on the machine. Yes, our machines are becoming smarter every day. Some of our data comes from telematics. Yes, there is more data in the telematics world than you can shake a stick at. We need to gather it and manage it one way or the other. The one that is most interesting to us, and the one on which I've been working most in the last while, is the data that sits in our maintenance management software. Because there's a lot of data that we collect in the normal course of our business, behind the scenes, as part of implementing our competent workflows. And this is really where the Maintain workflow and the excellence and stability of the Maintain workflow comes in very, very strongly. And then, of course, there are our accounting ERPs where we record the cost situation and calculate all our cost metrics. Well, cost is actually the easiest one. We're very, very good at collecting data and keeping records when there are dollar signs involved or when we work with money. You see, the accounting folk have generally accepted principles, and therefore it's relatively easy to develop the matrix you need and get on with the stuff as it happens. Now, why Maintain and why the one platform? Well, because all the behind-the-scenes data you need to develop the utilization, reliability, and age tools are in Maintain workflows and form part of the B2W1 platform. It's a matter of organizing it. The data is there. We need to get it together and use it to drive our 4 standard and generally accepted tools in cost, reliability, utilization, and age. We need the data to drive the tools we've discussed as forming part of the defined CEMP way. John's now going to go through some of the Maintain workflows and show how these workflows support all that we've discussed in our webinar thus far. So John, over to you.
Thank you very much, Mike. I appreciate your involvement here. So as we walk through and talk about Maintain and talk about some of the other principles that Mike has talked about. One must think about the processes and the workflows needed to support what Mike calls the CEMP way. Your CMMS program must have, at a minimum, a standardized maintenance workflow, which includes repair requests and work orders that allow you to group work together for equipment and schedule it appropriately. Mike talked a lot about the maintenance coding that's required and being able to code your work orders and your priorities and so forth appropriately so you can measure against your KPIs. And that could also flow into managing your downtime as well and keeping track of that. Capturing warranty information is important. Having valid and accurate warranty notifications so you can maximize dollars there. It's a huge cost savings in the industry, and a lot of warranty capabilities get lost when you have to go to a big filing cabinet to determine if something is covered or not. Having extensive equipment detail, all the information that you need to know about a piece of equipment, having it available at a button's press is hugely important to create efficiencies for the shop manager in his decision-making tasks. Tracking your purchasing and inventory of parts. Obviously, that ties into the cost information in regards to your equipment maintenance in relationship to each piece of equipment. That in turn ties into your work order management as well, and being able to capture all that together and track it and report on it, again, helps the shop manager determine some pretty advanced decisions regarding whether or not to rent, junk, keep a piece of equipment, or sell it. Mobility. Mobility is a huge thing in the industry right now. We all know that tablets are huge in the workplace, and creating those efficiencies as well, being able to track work out in the field away from the office and track that coding structure and all the activity that happens with equipment maintenance with a tablet app is huge. Locating equipment. Telematics plays a huge part in this, as Mike had mentioned. Knowing where your equipment is at any given time helps you not only maximize the efficiency of your maintenance, but also maximize the efficiency of your mechanics as well. So when you're sending a mechanic out to a job to fix one piece of equipment, you also want to know what other piece of equipment is out there, as well as what work is in the queue that needs to be done, whether it be preventive maintenance or whether it be a break fix or something like that. Obviously, we need standard reporting for analyzing, informative dashboards, and so forth. This actually allows us to keep track of all of this, see all the activity that's going on in a succinct way, and make decisions based on that. So all of this ties together, as Mike said, in regards to cost, reliability, age. Utilization is also as important, as Mike said, and our B2W Track and B2W Schedule products tie together to complete that picture. So one of the most important aspects of equipment maintenance is the capability to be proactive in your scheduling and planning, and Maintain supports this in a way to allow you to schedule work to your mechanics, track that work through the pipeline, and look ahead to what work needs to be done. Now, obviously, in the screenshot, you can see we have a picture of our schedule. You can see we've got mechanics, we've got all kinds of work orders in flight that we can see at a glance and know what work is going on and look ahead to what work is needed in the future. Planning that work out and being proactive like that is a huge efficiency gain when it comes to cost of maintenance. And one big piece of that puzzle is also your dashboard metrics and so forth. This reporting on this capability, your percentage of emergency maintenance items, your planned versus preventative versus unplanned work, schedule compliance, all of these efficiency factors tie into cost savings, process improvement, and of course efficiencies, as I stated. Reporting and knowing your cost information. This is a huge piece of the puzzle that ties right into your accounting software. So as we talk about the accounting software having standards and so forth, this cost information needs to be able to be exported and imported into your accounting software, simply because the cost of ownership includes a lot of variables. And your CMMS program provides some of those variables, but there are other variables that only the accounting software have insight into. So being able to merge that together and report on that allows your shop manager to determine where and when and what to do with a piece of equipment at any given time. So that's hugely important. So the workflows in Maintain, as you go from a repair request reported from the field to a work order to a scheduled work order, combining that with your preventive maintenance and having a system that automatically tells you when preventive maintenance is due. Add that to the capability of knowing where your equipment is, so that when you're scheduling these items, you're grouping them together to create that efficiency. And then tying that into your parts management, your inventory, your cost information and purchasing, and things like that. And then your coding structures. All of that ties into the efficiencies that you can gain from a CMMS program, and Maintain supports all that. Reporting on all that after the fact is huge. And as we say in the industry, your product is only as good as what you get out of it. So the reason you buy a program like Maintain is to give you the details needed to make decisions. And that's huge in the process, as Mike outlined earlier. And that concludes our webinar for today. If you have any questions, call our sales department. Our sales contact information is there. Any of our existing customers that have a question and would like to call our support department, our website and our telephone number is there as well. And just so you know, we will also email a link to the recorded session so you can walk through it later, listen to it later at a later time with your team. Again, I want to thank Mike Vorster for joining us today. I want to thank all of you for joining today. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to let us know. Thank you very much.